recently, McKinsey put out a study, and it was very compelling. And basically what they were saying is, despite the fact that employees really vote for virtual work from home, there has been an increase in the lack of connection they feel at work. So those two things are really running counter. And why that should matter to a CEO is that, we are losing individuals, right? We have the quiet quitting. We have, before that, the great resignation, right? Retention is a huge factor right now. But this study was really eye-opening. It said that, most employees felt that their network, I want to say, was 25% smaller than it was pre-pandemic. And that many of those same respondents felt that their connection to their leader was a lot less robust than it used to be, right? So for all the good of work from home, we're really in, I think, a little bit of a danger zone in terms of making employees feel connected. So that's why I think having a really strong support network is key. Now, again, it's not a leader's job solely to make this happen. In fact, I would start with leaders. I think leaders are the ones that have taken probably the biggest load of stress and overwhelm during this last 2.5, almost 3 years. And so I think leaders themselves need a support system. And what that looks like could be, for example, doing more formalized peer network groups. And I don't mean necessarily what we know as employee resource groups, right? Like Women in Work or, whatever the case. This is joining together some peer networks or letting them form organically, but being supportive of it through technology or through whatever, where a group of 4 or so leaders can meet once a week, once a month, and be each other's thinking partner. I mentioned this before. People who are entrepreneurs know this as a mastermind group. So you could also think of that as an internal mastermind group. And everybody gets to bring sort of a challenge to the table at the beginning of the meeting. And the other's job is to try to be a peer coach, try not to fix it right away, but to ask some really compelling questions to get that person to have some ways of processing it that during their day-to-day, meeting to meeting, they really haven't been able to process. And sure, of course, after several questions, jump in with, well, here's what I did under that circumstance and it worked, or why don't you try this? Or how can I support you? Or just listen, right? Any of those things. So it could be a buddy system. Sometimes they're called swimming partners. We've heard of them as all kinds of things. But then the beauty of that is that leaders can then extend that to their teams. They can say to their teams, I'd like us to set up a buddy system where either you self-select a buddy within the team or let me just randomly pick partners. And the intent is for you to be able to share things with your colleague that maybe you're not comfortable sharing with me, because maybe you just want to vent about something. And the best and safest place to do that is with a trusted colleague, right? So, I would say this, I'm all for this peer support, peer network, peer coaching. If you can, I think these same employees and leaders need a little bit of training around what it means to be a peer coach or a thinking partner, right? And it doesn't have to be difficult. It could be a one-pager on how to ask effective questions. A little bit about the Socratic method, which is really about asking questions. But what things to avoid, right? Being judgmental, getting caught up in the story. Oh, that happened to me. Let me tell you, right? Because it's not about you. If they're coming to a peer support and they need help, you need to listen.
Right.
So yeah, and some of the things that I've even recommended for leaders is to have a weekly or monthly open office hours where you tell the team, look, every Friday at 10, I'm going to be on Zoom. No agenda. I'm just going to be working. If you want to pop in and ask a question, great. If you want to just talk to me about something that bubbled up for you that week, you want some help and you're okay with other people listening in, great. Again, that one's going to take some time to get traction, but I've heard great feedback from that particular strategy.